This is Quinn McLean, and this is Quinn McLean's Car Corner. Today we're going to be talking about the GM 6.2 liter diesel. So what happened before that? Probably almost all of us that is included in the Redneck Newscast. What happened before we were born? That was the fuel crisis, or the oil crisis, it's also been known as. In the 70s, we saw a big step in America towards smaller, more compact cars because fuel, we were running out of it. And there was a big scare that we were eventually going to run out of, combustible liquids to run through cars, mostly gas, diesel, blah, 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 blah. So this is what we decided to come out with in the pickups. So back in the day, cars in America did not make any power. No matter what your grandfather told you, what your dad told you, the cars were slow. We had a Chevrolet 350 making legitimately 150 horsepower from the factory. Now, I realize you put a different cam, you put different heads in it, you put a different carburetor, remove all the vacuum lines. Yeah, then you make a horsepower per cubic inch. But from the factory, which, let's be honest, probably a good 85% of people don't ever fucking do. They don't ever tear apart the engine. They don't ever try to make it faster. They just get in it, put gas in it, and drive, and go home and drink themselves to death. So we came out with a diesel alternative because we realized the cost of gas in these pickups, getting 8-9 miles to the gallon and not having any fucking power. Well, you might as well save money on fuel. And that's when the 6.2 came out. It was one of the first engines that was offered in the U.S. market as far as pickups go as a diesel option. And what that included was an indirect injected engine. Now, when I say indirect injection, also known as IDI, there's a couple engines here in the U.S. that use that kind of system. The 6.2, the 6.5, and the 6.9, and then also the 7.3 pre-Power Stroke. There's a 7.3 turbo IDI. There's also a 7.3 just naturally aspirated IDI. Same with the 6.9 Ford. Another one of my favorite engines. And then also at the 6.5, those naturally aspirated, later turbocharged. They'll use all the way up to the late 90s. I think it was 99 was the last year. If not, there was a break. And then, the Duramax. But when I mean indirect injection, what exactly is that? And hopefully they'll show a little picture of it up here. Basically, there's a pre-combustion chamber. Fuel's injected, put in a little bowl, I would say, and then the valve opens and sucks it in and fires. And that's why they're so efficient. Another thing is that the NA motors, super high compression ratio. That's why they called the 6.2 a fuel pincher V8, because it's literally 21 or 22.5 to 1 compression ratio. And if you know anything about engines, that's fucking tight. I mean, we're talking high compression, drag racing motors that burn alcohol, or maybe 15, 16 to 1. It's fucking nuts. So when you say 21.5 to 1, that's fucking tight. When they first came out from 81 to 82, weren't super reliable. They had some engine issues, mostly cracking blocks and stuff, but I couldn't figure out fucking why when it's 21.5 to 1 compression. You know what I mean? So 83 was the more desirable year, also known as the Red Block series. So what did you get when you bought a 6.2? Well, you got anywhere from 120 to 135 brake horsepower and about 300 plus foot-pounds of torque. Doesn't sound like a lot, but you got to remember from the time, a 350 only made 150 horsepower, not even that much foot-pounds of torque. But the 6.2 got 2 to maybe 3 times the fuel economy. And I can attest to this. Me personally, I had a half-ton. It was a C10, so it was a 2-wheel drive paired with a 700 R4 automatic overdrive. And I swapped in, I think it's 320 something, 323. I'm tired. You got to give me a break here. 323 rear ends out of a Suburban. And it averaged 22 miles to the gallon out of a half-ton pickup. That's pretty awesome. And that's where the 6.2 held its place. Was it powerful? No. Was it reliable after 83? Bulletproof. Absolutely bulletproof. There are several people saying they got 300 and 400,000 miles plus out of them. And a lot of those gasoline engines with carburetors, you're lucky if they got 150,000 before they blew up because of fuel wash and everything like that, depending on your climate. And then we go back to fuel injection, how it saved those motors a bunch. And then as the 6.2 went on, you could get turbocharge options. Can't push much more than 8 PSI though, obviously going back to the compression ratio. But it really tuned up those motors quite a bit. They went from like 135 horsepower to almost 190 or 200. And before you kind of scoff at it, it doesn't sound like anything now. But you got to also remember when the 5.9 Cummins first came out with a non-intercooled option in 89, it only made 180. So the 6.2, is it worth the buy? Absolutely. You can still find parts for them. There's still a lot of people that rebuild the injection pumps on them. Pretty reasonable too. So if you find a 6.2, give it a checking out. That's obviously a word. So anyway, this is Quinn McLean's Car Corner. Go fuck yourself.